All right, so we're discussing the experience of the black man in the Quad Cities, and we're so glad to be in a really important place for that. Joe's Barbershop. It's been a place for people of all types for more than decades now, and we are glad to be here with the owner of Joe's Barbershop, Joe McLemore, as well as Andre Gooch and Avery Pearl. We appreciate you all for being a part of this discussion today. Very important discussion. Glad you're with it.
Thanks for inviting us. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. So let's start by just kind of talking about your upbringing and what's led to this point so far.
Anyone or?
Yeah, 72.
Well, let me see. I'm from one of the largest families in the Quad Cities. My mother had 19 children, 10 boys, 9 girls. We had sort of, I'll say, poor conditions. But it was all kind of good for me because at the time you don't realize how good it really is. One thing for sure, you learn to do so much on your own. My mother gave me something that I didn't think she really had at the time. She couldn't read or write. She didn't have a formal education. She didn't even have a birth certificate. But at the same time, she gave me the essentials to life, which most people today don't seem to have. She taught me, she said, if you can't take care of yourself, son, you can't take care of nobody. Number one, she said, keep something in your pocket, roof over your head, and always enjoy what you eat. She gave me those essentials and it worked. By the time I left home, all my brothers and sisters, we all took different avenues. Well, here I am. I could probably sit here and talk for the next 30 minutes, maybe more, because all the avenues that I took, I had to learn on my own. And quiet as it's kept, it's pretty good for some people. It was good for me. I knew what I wanted. By the time I was about 14 years old. At 13, I was working full time, but it was just in the summer. I would caddy, and I would carry 2 bags. You got $3 for 18 holes. But of course, that was good money at that time, because you could buy a pair of shoes for $3. Well, the bottom line is you could buy 2 pair for $5. It was called Hills Brothers Shoes. I learned how to take care of myself real early because of this lady. See, and when you get to be this age, I'm on my way out now. I'm born at 43. I'll be 80 years old and August 30th. Hey, appreciate everything I've done and what I've got. All of it kind of wore off on me, so, and today I see people that have so much advantage, they don't seem to understand. Here we're living in a country with so much controversy every day. I'm so tired of hearing it. I don't think most of the people that live here really appreciate America, and it isn't just one race. It's the people that live here. I've talked to most of the people that don't live here. They love it. They'd actually kiss the ground, and they love it. They'll go to work. I've got guys who'll come in and tell me that I'm not working 12 hours a day. I said, is the work pretty hard? That used to be a reason for quitting. Second, do they pay you very well? He said, yeah, they have good money. I just don't want to work 12 hours. I said, oh, okay, fine. Well, this is the attitude in America. Always trying to check out the person that pays you, things of that nature. And of course, my brothers and sisters, hey, most of them did very well. I've got there's only 6 of us left living. I got 1 more brother, just 2 brothers and 4 sisters. We have an older family, But, hey, another thing, if you got a family, do everything you can if you're in a position to help them, some of your family members. I would always help my family members. My mom taught me that. If I got $100 in my pocket, give your brother 25. He needs help, or your sister. You got to always learn to share. This generation here, I can't blame them too much. I think the parenting is just poor parenting. Don't ask me how they got that way. All I know is the parenting is terrible. Whenever you have a business, you get to deal with this. Disrespectful people, I've never seen anything like it. And you have to hold your horses simply because you can be down in one of those cells. But of course, you got to really maintain. The parenting is terrible. It's not the kids. Kids are going to be kids. They're going to be kids. That's never going to stop. It's the parents. They've allowed the kids to do too much of everything. No controls, no structure. And I'm so tired, like I think I told you before. Well, the two-parent home, my eye. One parent is all you need. Someone that loves you and cares about you. They can raise you. I've seen men talking about, well, women can't raise boys. Oh, yeah, okay. That's that chauvinistic crap. Man, my mother did what? That's all. She did a good job. And this generation should appreciate it. The system keeps pushing the two-parent system. There's nothing wrong with it, but good Lord. Man, I done seen some women do better with their children than the two parents are doing. And I tried to find stats on how many two-parent homes fail or succeed. I can't find any stats on that, but I can find a lot of stats on the ones that are failing. You get plenty of that. So I try to tell people every day, appreciate your mom. Most of them have moms, especially African Americans. And, hell, you're talking to the wrong person. You're disrespecting. Man, Lord have mercy. I cared for my mom. You know, that's all I can say because I knew she was doing a hard job. And every time I got a chance to, I tried to make her happy. And that's all life is. It's whatever you see, you know, right from wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Andre, tell me about your upbringing.
My upbringing, born and raised Davenport, Iowa. Two-parent household. I was fortunate. Dad came from Mississippi, sharecropper. Mother, I think she moved up here from Missouri. They met at the local J.C. Penney. I grew up, my dad had a decent job, so I got to grow up a little bit in better circumstances than a lot of my peers. And growing into adulthood, I see the effect of what I received at home versus what they did and didn't. I had a lot of men in my life that were able to impart wisdom, whether they were perfect or not, that's a whole nother thing. I grew up, all the schools I went to really kind of reflected the local demographic, you know, as far as, you know, races, really. In a lot of classes, I was sole black child. So that was a unique experience in itself. And sometimes you had a few, you know, but I was able to experience a lot of different cultures, from Vietnamese, Hispanic, you know, you're Irish, you're German, just French, like so many different cultures. So the Quad Cities, growing up, how I did, where I did, the schools that I attended, it really helped me see the world multiculturally and for the way that it really functions, to keep it short. Yeah. But for the most part, especially among my peers, I grew up in a very fortunate circumstance to have both my mother and father in the home. And that made a big difference in my upbringing me into adulthood and how I raised my own children.
Avery, what about you?
Raised in the Quad Cities, born in Springfield, actually, moved here after birth. On my father's side, we come from Missouri. On my mother's side, we come from Mississippi. So that's something common again.
Mm-hmm.
I had lived in a single parent household, my mom and 3 other siblings. There was 4 of us. And then faced homelessness, faced poverty, moved a decent amount of times. Had deaths in our family early on that were really like the power structure to our families. So when they passed away, a lot of things got put into chaos. And so we were constantly moving into new schools, new homes, new communities. And I felt like an army kid a little bit, you know, bouncing around, meeting people, but it refined me as a person. It helped me learn a lot, and it gave me the understanding of become the adult that you needed as a child. And so that's what I've been able to, that I've been living my life based off of, is becoming that adult. I remember in high school, I had a teacher, he felt it was endearing, but he said, money in this country speaks like an old white man. And at first I was like, what are you saying? But then I'm like, okay, looking at business, looking out in the community, looking at the organizations that I belong to in high school, like the Key Club and things along those lines. That's what I was seeing. And that began to influence me into thinking that I had to imitate an old white man to become successful in business. And so I went to school, got out, went and worked a corporate job up in Chicago, was completely unhappy with it. We getting money, nice check, more than I ever had made, but I just didn't feel fulfilled in the line of work that I was doing. And so then I came back here. Pandemic just hit, so there was a whole lot of craziness going on. I was like, what's something I know I can do? I was like, I know I can help mentor kids. So I started working at Project Renewal, got involved in community work there. The detention center situation happened in Scott County, and they were trying to build it across the street from Project Renewal. So I ended up getting into community organizing, things along those lines. Realized that it was almost 90% Black kids in the detention center. And so there needed to be some specific thing done in our community to address that problem. Linked up with Tracy in the Lincoln Center, and the rest has been history. So.
Absolutely. So you guys all have different experiences growing up. In your all estimation, how did those experiences kind of help shape you into the person, the people that you are today?
Oh boy, that's a good one. When I think back, all my experiences helped me to be what I am today. You know, it's a funny thing when you really can look back. I'm older than anybody in here, and I can really look back. I've been I don't like the word blessed. I used everything that was given to me for nothing. I was always willing to work. I would never quit a job because I didn't like it. I knew I had to make something out of this. I either bought a car or I bought something that was really good for me. Until then, and I'd find another job. The difference in the generations today are they'll quit without even realizing that somebody has to do it. Not all the time, it's just temporarily. But if you get all the information you got and all the knowledge that you have, you can go out here and be anything you want at any time. You don't have to blame anyone, no condition. I mean, I could be anything I wanted. I wanted to duck college. I said, yeah, I'll go to barber school. They gave me just enough time, never knowing I'd be here all this time. I've got a wife that I've been married to now, it'll be 59 years. Hey, yeah, it's a long time. Never dreaming I'd be married this long. And I get a kick out of the question, well, Joe, are you ever play on your wife? Well, listen, there's no such thing as a perfect marriage because there aren't any perfect people. The bottom line is we made it together. And sometimes I don't mention her, but she's something else. She's a wolf. See, you have to have that person on the same page as you are in order to make it. You can tell me all you want. If they're not on the same page as you, in this world, you're not going to make it. She's about 70% of me. There's a lack, maybe 30% different. We have raised 2 kids. We've raised 2 grandkids, and proud of it. You know, every day I try to tell the brothers, I want to make them a little envious at the same time, but I want them to learn. You can do this. That's all there is to it. So I'm not going to sit up and say, well, racism was bad for me. I was up here in the North, didn't get as much as those in the South, even though it's still here to this day. Wherever I might go, there's going to always be some obstacles. I got to overcome those obstacles. That's all there is to it. If I know that I have to do twice as much, I'm going to do twice as much. And if I walk it, I got to talk it. See, and everybody all the time will be telling me, I don't want to hear it. People are mad at you because they'll start to label you. Well, he thinks he knows it all. I know one thing. If you're a failure and you don't put your best foot forth at anything that you do, you're never going to make it. America is truly easy to make it. They'll give you an education. They pay for one. Well, you can go out here, if you maintain a 3.5, they'll give you some money. They'll grant you something. Here, people, I said, man, listen, when I was coming along, I don't think they had too much of this. Not give me stuff. Now you can get it. You know, I tell my grandkids, all of them, and I tell my son and daughter. My son had a little problems for a while, but hey, we straightened it out because we worked together as a family structure. Now, of course, I think you need structure to raise children. But if the condition is the way it is, what are we going to do? Just keep talking about it? Listen, respect that parent, that one person that you have. That's all you can do. I keep going back to that. And I tell all the brothers when they come in here, I don't want to hear it, you know, and believe me, I don't. This nation, you can do anything. I can walk out of here at 80 years old and do anything I wanted to. I can still go to school. I can make anything I want, amount of money I want to. Anything happens, I can make it happen because it's the person. Say no more. Yeah. I could probably talk all day, but
I'll shift the question to you, Andre. Your experiences growing up, how did they help shape you into who you are today?
I'll quote James Baldwin on this one. It says something to the effect of, to be black and conscious in this country is to be in a constant state of rage. I was exposed to an older brother who really made me read and educate myself in a lot of different ways outside of my normal text in school. And, he put me on the Baldwin. And in some ways, I can agree to understand truly what we've endured, overcome, and accomplished in this country. And despite in really understanding the odds that were against us, I can understand James in that right? But then again, Maya Angelou says, yes, be angry. Be angry. Absolutely. Be angry. But don't be bitter. I think that really determines human spirit, us as a people, I think. And I think if we move in that way, it'll give us some grace despite so much that we endure on a day-to-day basis. One thing I think we're tired of as a people, though, is really kind of explaining our humanity, because I feel like we've had enough poets, movies, songs to articulate this. So I really feel like a lot of people maybe need to hear it in their own words and from their own mouth, their own educators. There's a man named Tim Wise. Look up anything with Tim Wise. He's given some ugly truths. This is whether you want to face it or not. There's another brilliant woman named Jane Elliott. I think she was an educator in Iowa. She had an experiment called the brown and blue-eyed experiment. Look that up. If you really want to understand racism, that's a way to maybe digest it in a way that people can swallow initially, but racism in that form, after you watch it, you'll see that's what as a black person you've had to endure, overcome, navigate socially in a lot of different ways. But if you want that prism shift, Jane Elliott will give it to you, that mental prism shift. But like I said, I was able to grow up in an environment where I was nurtured more than most. Like I said, it's far from perfect, but I was nurtured more than most. So it gave me a perspective that I can articulate in a way that a lot of people can't. A lot of these young people have no way to really express themselves. It's just my observation as a man has really been more graceful and looking at the younger generation and seeing the potential and being more optimistic about them. They make it difficult to be optimistic about them. They make it difficult because the things that I see on social media, things that I think trip their trigger and fill their ego and fuel their culture. They make it difficult, but there's so much beauty there in their waywardness, if there's such a thing. You know what I mean? Like, I try to be optimistic because just bashing them and kicking them while they're down, that's something that sadly they're used to. They expect it because the older generation has done so. You know what I mean? But there's a lot more bashing and less teaching. You know what I mean? And we really need to shift that. And there's a lot of different ways we can do it. I do it through my art, through my lingo, through social media, through my music. And I think that's one avenue to really get through to this younger generation. But it has to be dope. It has to be fly, too. It can't just be preachy. Nobody wants to hear that, So my optimism is there for this younger generation more than most because I understand them. I understand the loss, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? There are some brilliant minds in this young generation. And I see that they've grown up with social media. They've grown up with... I've come from a generation where I've seen the computer progress from floppy disk to what it is now. They grew up with it a part of their fiber. You know what I'm saying? And I see that effect as good and bad. So just my observations of this younger generation, if we're critiquing them. I love them. I'm optimistic. but there needs to be more kindness among them. You know, I call it this generation, the teenagers, I call them meanagers. They're cruel, man. They can be very, very cruel. So that socially, reconstruction is really what is really needed. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm really working toward. You know, one of the terms that we use among ourselves as black people is we church, and it's an N word. We know we use it in a slang term. It's controversial for a lot of different reasons. But one of the things I've done is shift that word from that to ninja. You know, it's shifting the narrative, the prism shift. It goes from something that's derogatory, demeaning, you know, the lowest of the low, in a forgive me if I say it, a bastardized form, to something that is more uplifting, that instills some kind of discipline, something, you know. But there's so much negative speak among them and to them, and among, you know, that we really have to shift that. So the social shift is really what is needed. No law is going to change, you know, racism. You know, it's a social shift. It's a people thing.
Avery, what about you? Your upbringing and how it's helped shape you into the man you are today?
So like I said, I've been a lot of places, heard a lot, seen a lot. My mom always taught us, it doesn't matter if they're the richest person or the poorest person, you can learn from them. So we'd be staying after school, instead of going to the after school program, helping the janitor out. He telling us about everything he knows. We'd be over there with the principal. He telling us everything he knows. So I always was just a sponge for people who were willing to teach, you know. Then my mom also taught us that it doesn't matter if you are the richest person or the poorest person, you still have your integrity, you still have your soul, you still have who you are, minus all the physical, superficial things. And so that taught me that I can go out in the world, win it all or lose it all, I still got everything. You know, that took the fear off my back of being able to get in these spaces and advocating the way I do and be this presence that I am. And so then outside of there, like I said earlier, being the light has been my driving force. I want to be that adult that I needed as a child. And so I firmly believe you can tell somebody something a million times, unless they see you doing it and see the positive benefits that you get from doing what you say, it doesn't matter. That's the only way people see and learn. And so for me, I can tell one of my little ones, hey, get out and work out every morning. But unless they see me getting out and working out every morning, they're not doing that because they don't see how it's possible. I think that's a problem with a lot of these kids right now, is they don't see the possibility. For me, growing up, it was rap or go to the league. That was the energy that was out in the world. So I'm like, man, I'm about to go play football. I ain't worried about none of this. My mom like, oh yeah, how you gonna get there? Oh, I gotta go to school. Oh yeah, so then do your work. I'm like, okay. It makes sense when you say it like that. But not everybody got a mom like I had, you know? And so when people try and make me to be that person who's like, oh, you made it, why can't they make it? Don't compare my situation to the next, because I had some strong people, despite my odds, some very strong people who was never gonna let me even go down that path. You know what I'm saying? And so like taking that energy she gave me, the sacrifices that I seen her make in her life of having 4 kids and putting us first, and the pain that comes from that. And she's an adult, like she openly is like, I chose that, so she doesn't play victim about it. But it is something that I seen as a child that motivated me to want to get out and be able to serve. You know, I received enough as a child. I was loved. I got the things, I didn't get everything I wanted, but I got enough of what I wanted to where I felt secure. So then after a certain point, I'm like, okay, Mom, don't worry about me. Take care of them. You done gave me my wings, so let me go fly and bring something back home. And that's the same thing it is for the community. You know, like what can I provide to my community? Not what can I take from them? What can I make off of them? And so I do my best to serve. I actually try and stay out of the cameras, believe it or not, just because like I really want to support. And I understand that there's great people doing great things and serving in great capacities, and they need other great people supporting them and helping them to stay solid through the storms. Because if you turn on the news at any moment, it's usually something going on. You know, there's always something going on, and we need some pillars of energy that are going to keep just the good times alive. You know, the happiness alive. Like, hey, you all right? You hanging in there? I know it's windy. I know you be going through some stuff, But like, you good? Like, just that little conversation changes lives. You know what I'm saying? And so, just being the light. I've felt the pain. I know there's a lot of trauma out here in this world, and for my personal life, I've had enough of it. I'm gonna make some success come from my pain. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna just take the pain and leave it there. I know that I experienced that because it was leading me to a place where I could, one, advocate for others who are experiencing it, even though I'm no longer experiencing it. But then also for me to be able to tell my story, tell my truth, and help change this world into a better place.
Yeah,
You're one of them good people. I didn't even know what kind of work you was doing. See, this is why you need to be on this platform. There was no way. I didn't even know you existed
I know, yes,
until today. You know what I mean? So you're doing great work out here. And no, you're not the camera person. You like to be behind the scenes, but people need to know the work you're doing out here.
Facts. And really, maybe remember the main thing I was trying to say. I want to show these kids other options. There's other possibilities. You can be a Joe. You know what I'm saying? You can be whatever you want. You can build it from scratch.
Right.
Sometimes you got to work for somebody to do that, though. You got to have a strategic plan. If you a ship without somebody sailing it, where you going? What you doing? You know, most of these kids is rebels without causes right now. They got to fight, but they don't know who they fighting.
You got to start when they're really young.
You have to.
You know, the funniest part is I had a program I was instituted into. It was called Read Aloud. Fourth and fifth graders. Oh man, they enjoyed it. I told them I want to read a 41-page book. And when I get done, it's going to be questions and answers. But I fooled them on one thing. I wanted to find out if you were really serious about learning. I told them, but there's one thing I'm going to, at the end of the story, I says, I got $51 bills here. There's $1 for every correct answer. Even a kid in timeout was answering. My point I'm going to drive to give to you is, these kids have to go right back to the same neighborhood, the same conditions that I just got through taking them out of just for a moment.
Right.
You cannot. 9 out of 10 times, you're not going to be successful with those children. I went back, Matt McDowell, anyone in Davenport know Matt? I wanted to find half of those kids, and I wish you could hear the results. I could give it to anybody if they want to hear it. Most of them failed. I found out you got to take them out of that environment in order to have success. They're going to have a greater success by taking them out of the environment. If he has to go right back, it's a loss, because this is what they did to me when I was a kid. I'd go to Christian camp. Come on. When I got off the bus, I had to go right back. In fact, I hated to get off the bus because the camp was a lot better than my environment. Today, these kids today have so many obstacles. They can if they see it. If we start with our families, this is all we need. If you start with your family and they raise their family and they keep continuing this, give them structure and things of this nature, we'll have a better society. But as far as reaching out, I'm out here in the streets and it works for, I'm so sick of hearing this, well, we saved one. Out of what, 100? 1,000? I don't want to hear that. I want to hear the opposite. We saved 99 and one failed. And the only way to do that is to make people understand that, yeah, you do have a problem. Racism will be here till we die. Color has nothing to do with it. If you get past that, and all you got to remember is, this is what I got to do. You can, man, I could go out this door today and I pass any college class because I'm focused. I know what's going to take me to where I got to go. Information, education, all of that. I've seen more people here today that this going on and on and on. Here I am, it's what, civil rights legislation, came in 1965? We're right back where we started. Blacks are at the bottom of everything.
That's why this young generation is mad, though.
Everything. And do you know why? Because we keep going over the same road. We're begging people for something we can do for ourselves. If you put 100 people in here, you cannot stop 100 people in this barbershop. If we pool our resources and know what we got up, this is what we've got to do. The only time we've really made great gains in America as African Americans was right after slavery. You were free. You could do anything. And of course, you heard it, Tulsa. Everybody in this room has.
Absolutely.
They were making great gains because they were forced to do it.
Like Wall Street.
Integration, I'm not saying be segregated, talking about running and killing whites and all this. But the bottom line is get up and do something for yourself. That's all you got to do. I found out all the dead-end jobs I had. I used to hate it. Shine shoes, wish I would. Things of this nature. Man, you a man. I seen a guy shine shoes and send 4 kids to college. That's what I'm looking for. Don't let this get you down. I seen a guy mop floors all his life, did floor care. His name is Steve Overton, worked over at North High School. Anybody know him in here? Thank you, dear. And you see what he's already done and accomplished just doing floors. I seen people haul garbage. Now everybody's hauling garbage. Everybody's washing cars. I seen when I was coming up, a black man washed cars. Whites didn't. Now they're washing them. Oh, they're hauling garbage. Watts became so big because of what? Hauling garbage. We got a Cribs right now, Cribs Landscaping. Nobody wants to talk about a millionaire just cutting grass. Hey, listen, you can raise a family doing anything if you set your mind to it and want to do it. Don't let them obstacles stop you. Man, if you put your hands on me, it's the only time I'm going to let something stop me. With all that, call me what you want. You stand over there all day and call me a nigger. Call me anything you want. Please, but don't put your hands on me. I'm not going to go to jail for something that's stupid. I don't want to because I know what this justice system will do for me, or should I say this so-called justice system. And I tell all the young people, man, don't stop that. Don't do that. Everyone I talk to, sometimes they're a little too far gone. But if I could get a school to look up this one, tell everybody in this room here, look up Boys Town in Nebraska. Father Flanagan had the right ideas. Do you understand what I mean? He started with all of them here. That's why 90% success. You cannot start with these kids that are up there in their teen year.
Oh, they
Their
lost
peers.
cause then?
No, I'm trying to say that you have to believe me, they'll bless you if you keep talking to them. The bottom line, their peer groups are better. They're more into their peers. You take the boy everybody's talking about the young man with the gun on website that plays basketball in the NBA. Well, can't you see his peers are more important than me and you?
Yeah.
Oh, man, but I can hear all the criticisms. Hell, it's the peers. He's got buddies. He's got friends he come up with. He's a multi-millionaire. But it's kind of hard to stay straight when you still got your
Okay.
friends and they doing a little something different.
That's not keeping it real
Which
going
is,
wrong.
thank you. Yeah, and what am I supposed to do with this? Well, you need to walk away from your friends. He ain't going to do that. It doesn't make sense for him to do it.
Yep.
If anything, do what my boy did. LeBron's took 4 of them with him. That's all I can say. But when you still honoring your peers, I see guys in here because one guy's got $5,000-$6,000 in his pocket. Oh, they love that peer. I'm not telling them not to. I'm just thinking, man, don't you think it's more important to look down the road a little bit? You just seen him go to prison. Are you next?
It's that influencer.
The
Peers you
influence
live
from the
in now.
peers, yeah.
Well, we have
It's hard for people to deal with it. And I don't have all the answers how to deal with it.
Well,
But I
they
do
see-
know one answer. Make sure you follow your children and make daggone sure that they're doing the right thing. And you've got to walk it. You can't just be talking.
Sincerely.
Like you said, I'm going to tell you to do something I ain't doing. That doesn't even make sense. So I tell people all the time that if you can see it, you become productive. I got a guy that worked here for 26 years. And geez, he's down in prison.
See,
Obviously, he didn't want to see it.
he comes from a different generation though. You come from a generation where it's sweat, grit. No, seriously. You come
Part
from
of
a
it, yeah.
generation
I agree with that.
that was the way to prosperity. You would get
I
a
agree
factory
with
job, 30 years, pension for.
That's right.
That's not the reality for this generation.
Stop right there.
anymore, though.
Some of them made it better for their kids. Look at you. The more you sweat and the more you did it, it wasn't for you, but it was for you. Look at mine. And if you see mine, I did all this for mine, me and my wife. And they're going to do that for theirs.
It's sweat
This is
equity.
what it's all about. It ain't got nothing to do with, I can't win talking about it all the time. When I look up on TV, and I'm proud to see this man because he's doing something that, oh man, I'm not lying to you. He's professional. He's everything that this is what I'm looking at. The kids are going to look at this. They're going to say, hey, this guy can do this. Let me get some information here. That's all it is, too. We got to keep leading by example.
Sincerely.
Stop the begging. Come on, we've been begging for 400 and some years. I mean, we've been free. Look here, it ain't nothing changed. If you want to really see the light, go dig and see where we're at. I hate the news sometimes. Well, black people, whites have a life expectancy. Come on. You do have a life expectancy because you had more prenatal care. You're 500 yards ahead of me. Why compare me to you and you got all this time ahead of me? I'm proud for a black 79, 80-year-old black man because I did a good thing. I lived decent. And I want to teach people you can do it. I'm going to catch you. I'm in the same arena with a few of you that keep criticizing me every day. Oh, but yet I've been through quite a bit ancestrally and everything else. When I look at the pioneers, man, good God Almighty. One more sec. There's a lady that's got a picture I seen. It turned me on so much I can't hardly talk about it. Her name was Mum Betts, M-U-N, Bet, B-E-T-T, like Bettendorf, abbreviated with a period. She changed her name to Elizabeth Freeman. She said, I'm willing to die. She was willing to die for 1 minute of freedom. I didn't say no. I thought it was something kind of fictitious when I read it. I had to keep going through it. 1 minute of freedom is all she asked for. She was willing to die. I think about that, man, my skin crawls. Here, I got all the freedom to do anything I want to do. You tell it like it is. That's all there is to it. I'll die for mine. You can't do me too wrong. I will actually die. I'm talking about I got freedom. Here's a woman was asking for 1 minute. Look her up if you think I'm lying. I got it in my thing out in my car if you want to see it. Oh, it turned me on. I tell my kids I said, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear nothing. Let's get busy. That's all.
I want to give you a chance, Andre, to answer that question as well. Talking about that next generation and ways to prop them up and set them up for success, what role do we play as adults in helping them get to where they need to be?
We are that generation that's responsible for them.
Thank you.
Now, accountability all around the board, honesty all around the board, honest conversation, addressing trauma, addressing dysfunction, and getting therapy. For this younger generation, there are a lot of brilliant minds among them. It's just one thing that I'm always been fascinated with is I remember having to do a research paper and going to the library, having to look at encyclopedias. And why internet was a new thing, all the information wasn't even on the internet at the time. Now this generation can swipe and look up almost anything, given AI, but, take AI out of the equation. They have instant access to all the types of information. You can start any kind of business. It just find a direction, pool your resources, and keep things in perspective. A pair of Jordans is a business license. You get a business license, how many Jordans can you buy? If that's what we're going for, I'm trying to feed them now. You know what I mean? If you like staying fresh, which is what a big part of this younger generation is really infatuated with, how can you perpetuate income instead of having to, use your own meager resources at this young age to fuel your habit, It's finding a focus creatively and doing the research so you can be the best and most informed that you can be in whatever field that you choose. I'm not telling them which way to go. It's really know that it takes more than just you. It takes a team to accomplish larger goals. So it's really assessing your circle and knowing who you have around you, where they're going, if they're cheering you on or if they're not. Assessing your social circle, because that's who really influences you. So know who you have around you. I think that's very important. And don't be afraid to be that voice that's not cool, that says, don't do this, don't do this. When I was in high school, I was a kid that I wasn't sexually active, I didn't smoke, so that made me a square in some of my social circles, but I was able to accept that because what's the flip side of that? Okay, possibly teenage pregnancy, which I had some friends have, possibly a drug charge, which I had some friends have. What's the exchange? So I'd rather not be cool and play football or be in choir or be in show choir or do these other activities than be what is considered cool, because most of the time with this younger generation, what they consider cool is so short term. They have to realize that. They have to see themselves further in the future than just an Instagram like for the day, that dopamine hit. You know, see yourself 20 years from now. Really try to visualize yourself with a long life, old and gray. And rather, if that's not, if you can't see yourself that way, you may not make it that far. And that's the ugly truth. You know what I mean? You have to see yourself long term. You have to see yourself in the future. And what are you doing now to create that? So, meditation, possibly a martial art. Boxing has always been good for me. Yoga. Exercise, absolutely. Reading something outside of your normal text in school. If you can't read, find a way to get a tutor. See out your resources. You have everything on your phone. You know, it just they use social media for everything but to help themselves. I think they need to really be mindful of their scrolling, because you say this generation doesn't read, and I would say it too. They do when they scroll. They read a lot, 4 or 5 hours a day. You know, you make that screen time. That's a lot of reading. Those memes, that's reading. That Titanic, not the Titanic, but the submarine, you're reading. Those are memes. There's so much reading. You're doing so much, you're ingesting so much information. But what good is it? Is it nutritious or is it junk food? You know what I mean? And a lot of it is junk food. You know, so be more mindful of what you scroll and what you ingest, because it creates your wavelength. You know what I mean? McDonald's is good for now, but it's tasty crap. You know what I mean? It's delicious, but it's not good for you. You know what I mean? Chick-fil-A is great. It's delicious, but it may not be the best thing for you. You know what I mean? So those funny memes may be good, but it may not be the best thing for your brain if that's all you're ingesting. So, you know, I hate to say and sound like the lame, read more, but that's one thing that is really important. That's helped me with my songwriting, my screenplays, my acting, my poetry, my spoken word. Just being able to read and really ingesting something that is truly good for me outside of my normal text. It can be difficult, but I think that's one thing that's where they can start, is be more mindful of your scroll, and hopefully you get into more in-depth reading. I think so. I think that'll be a really good direction.
Let me say something.
To go.
When I was coming up as a kid, I used to hear the criticism about white families versus blacks, and whites would have magazines and books in their homes. I said, damn, man, I never thought this. I never thought about all those things. I could never see me being anything, but all I wanted to do was survive. My conditions were that bad. Why I'm here and what I'm here is through the auspices of the great creator. That's the only reason I know I'm here for. I didn't plan what I'm doing now. I didn't plan where I was going to be. My conditions are like a lot of people that I see: colonization, big cities, kids all just gone to the bone. I understand. If you find yourself, you're fortunate. I found myself. I kept digging, and along the way, I've had a lot of obstacles. But when people start to say that, no, I never read a book till I was in my 50s. In fact, I just heard it on the news where it said the average person, which average to me is 50%. Well, if 50% of the people get out of high school and don't pick up a book, that's what I just read. I heard rather. And that makes sense because I did. I was in my 50s before I started to read a book. As you can see over there, I got plenty of them now. That's because I became middle class and I became successful. So far, the drama was over. Me having to hustle there, do this and do that. For all the things that happened to me, the structure is what really, we start structuring our lives. I watched a lot of white people send my kids to tap and jazz. I had my son playing a guitar. I was doing all the things I had to learn from them. I saw a young lady that went to school with my son, and this is the last story, and I had to see her at the bank in the window, and I asked her, I said, may I ask you something? I said, how'd you get that job? She said, I went to job service, and I could type 51 words a minute. I bought a $268 typewriter, and the rest is history. Both of my kids worked as student aides in an office over at the Arsenal. I followed anything and everything. The more that you learn, the more knowledge that you have, that'll take you on your way. All them people that you see across the top of that mirror had knowledge, and it took them on their way. They tried to give it back as best they could. And that's all I can say. You do this. You're an example, like raising your family. This is what you got to do. I'm there at every beck and call, and that's it. We all family in here. If something happens, I'm gonna be there. If you call me, I'm gonna say, we're gonna work something out here. That's all.
Avery, I want to wrap it up with you and give you that chance to answer that question. Obviously, you work with kids directly. What do we need to do as adults, the examples in their lives, in order to set them up for success in their futures?
First, we got to be vulnerable and tell them that we're going through these same things that they go through every day. The uncertainty, the stress, the anxieties, the worry, we got those too, but we don't let them stop us, you know? So then once you understand that it's not personal what you're going through, it's the world we living in.
That's
And we
right.
gotta be together if we're gonna make something happen from it. Then we can start talking about, okay, what we gonna make. So then it's live on purpose. If you a rebel without a cause, you standing for nothing and dying for anything. That's what's happening to a lot of these kids right now. They'll die for anything that gives them a cause. We got to give them better causes. With the detention center, we were taking kids to City Hall and having them speak to supervisors. And they're like, I can do that? I'm like, yes, that's your right. Like, you go in there and talk. They talk to them. They're like, I'm going back up. I got something else to say. I'm like, hey, you better than me, do your thing.
Yeah.
You speaking for yourself and for your community, and they understand that. You know what I'm saying? And so when they get the opportunity to get into this real work, into this community organizing, into this life living, they enjoy it. But given their own volition, they're not gonna go try something new, because a lot of them do think they got all the answers. And my thing with them is, if you had all the answers, you'd be happy.
That's
If you're
right.
not happy, something has to change.
That's right.
And I'm here to help you do that. Every kid needs somebody like that. It don't matter if it's somebody at school. It don't matter if it's a parent. They need someone who's like, hey, even when you the worst person in the world, I'm still going to tell you I love you, and I'm going to still get you back in line on the right track. If they don't have that right now, a lot of these kids, because a lot of these adults don't have that. So
We call them OGs. They don't got a lot of
and
them.
it's a disconnect, you know.
You ain't
And
lying
so
about that.
We got to intentionally reconnect our community. The KRS-One just said in an interview, the young ones need to talk to the old ones, because that'll make them better than the old ones and the young ones who ain't talking to each other. We refine each other.
And the
You
young
know what
ones
I'm
make the
saying?
old ones better.
Vice versa. It's
Right.
all kind of like, look, there's
Exchange of
new things
wisdom.
coming in, there's old things going out. It's
Yeah.
always constant. The only constant in life is death.
Right.
Change. That's what it is. You know, we all got to accept that, and that's we building a foundation.
I'd love to think that's not true.
There's a lot we can learn
Because,
from each other.
first of all, they sensationalize stories when it comes to African Americans in America here. We went back to the 40s and the 50s, and there was some in here that remembers the 60s. When it came to crime, I don't know if anyone remembers Benji, the movie they do on him out of Chicago, or going to be a basketball player in 1984. That year, what did they say? Over 600 homicides in one area. So I said, let's go back and let's see what this. In the 40s and the 50s, blacks were killing each other at the same rate as they are today. But what they've done is they've sensationalized gangsterism. And that's what it's all about. They're making money with this. But the bottom line is we've never really learned to respect one another. I started thinking about my period. There was a strip down here. Ain't nobody in here, I don't know if you can remember that. One man killed 5 people down there. He just died in the paper. Mr. Pete Overstreet. I've seen murder all my life. At 17, I was watching a murder in a teenage club. I've seen it in my neighborhood, a lady laying in the yard, A Street, Rock Island. All my life, nothing but murder. And
Well, when I
so
say
much.
death, I ain't promoting the culture of
No, I didn't know.
what
I
I'm
know you're
saying?
not. I'm just saying that nothing really changes. It's just the way we see it.
Right.
You know, there's really nothing that's really changed. We were at the bottom then. They're still at the bottom. If someone just comes up and tells the truth. What's so funny with this, if you even go back in the biblical sense, read the Bible and you'll see it's all still the same way. There's nothing really has changed. All I'm saying is we have to get a hold of our family structure. We have to teach our family. He's got a daughter sitting there. That's his structure. Man, I got to look out for my daughter before I looked out for my son. I didn't know that girls were so hard to raise because they got so many ignorant men out here today. You might wind up going to prison, you know. But the bottom line, yeah, I got a daughter that's been married twice. And man, look here, I'm thankful. If anyone in here understands me, I thought boys were the ones that were hard to. If you keep a young man out of prison, you usually got it made. But the girls are the ones that are, oh Lord. I mean, you run across a guy out here because he looks good and he's bow-legged and got nice this. That's oh no.
Well,
No. I can look at some of them and tell. All I'm saying to people is today the problems are the same. But you may think it's because of the generations. I've seen failure all my life. I've seen ghettos. My mother told me a story, and she was older than me. Last story. She said she used to go to the club on the weekend. I know y'all probably tired, but the bottom line is, and she said they had sawdust on the floor. I said, what? What the hell is that? She said, they just kept it there for the blood. She said, because if somebody got shot or killed or the blood got cut, they just drag him out. The stuff would go in the sawdust. I think some of y'all might have heard about that before. If you haven't, ask your parents. Some of them old ones. We've killed each other. We've done it. What you talking about? Man, when I was coming up, it was unreal. My best friends, all of them. I got 2 barbers were dead. One of them's woman killed him. The other was he got in his... This has been going on for years. I've been shot. I got shot when I was 23. All I'm saying is it's something that's we never really got to get together on. And it's still going on.
How do you stop the violence? We can
That's
talk
what I'm
about-
saying.
we can
I don't
talk about what it is.
That's
and
exactly
our
what I'm talking
observation
about.
is all day. How
I
do you
think the
stop
more,
it?
well, if you get a structured
How do you-
family.
Well,
Okay.
what I'm
That's
saying
it.
is
That's about the only
people-
thing.
People are not permanent. We got, like you said, a life expectancy.
Exactly.
So make something from that life expectancy.
I'm
have
just saying
a
that-
cause, have a
Yeah,
purpose.
have a
And-
cause.
And family is a driving force for that. But there's a million different things you can be passionate about and that you can serve your community with. And so for these kids, find that thing that makes you want to live and that will get you out of bed every morning, regardless of what time it is. Find that thing and go get it. Your life will be 10,000 times better. But as long as you in your head, you in your way. Get out your head and get into life.
I've seen a situation where a white lady had adopted 2 African boys, and she brings them in here to get them haircuts. She doesn't know what to do with the hair, but she brought them in to get a haircut. When they walked out the door, everybody in there was criticizing. Oh, they act white, man. They ain't gonna talk to no brothers. What the hell are you doing? That's all I gotta say. All I'm trying to say is at least they're gonna be raised. Give them some structure. You'll find out who he is if he keeps living in this life.
So we need to stop that hateful conversation then.
We don't have one.
Pettiness.
What's that?
You're gonna always have them in the barbershop
Yeah.
because that's the nature of people when they come in the door.
That's-
If they walked in here and talked about something productive, it'd be, oh, what the? But that's not what I'm gonna hear. Joe, did you so and so, man? That brother
Right.
did so and so. I said, please. I turned the music good. And then stop it.
How do you change that though?
Family structure. That's the only way.
As an individual, you're not in somebody's household all the time. So how do you?
Well,
change
see, I'm
that?
an individual first before
You
I'm
can
anything.
change the narrative though. You can.
Well,
shift it.
I can't change nothing. When we had, here's the
You can
last
tell-
story. We had 4 guys in the barbershop standing here in this floor. And guess what happened? They had over 100 kids. One guy had 23, which was Antoine Eccles just passed. Timmy Wilson had 22. I can go down the line, brother. What am I going to do with that situation? David, my barber, got 16.
But that's records.
Another guy's got 16. He's my nephew. Another guy's got 15. He's my wife's cousin. What am I going to do with this? There's nothing. I'm sick. I can't do nothing with it.
So you're saying it's overwhelming,
Woo, what you
to
do?
say the least. To say the least.
100 kids, 4 people?
Right.
I said, look, good Lord.
But while we're still here, we're responsible for them.
Yeah. You try to do the best you can. That's all you can do.
What can we do?
Let's build these connections. As men, we have to have clear channels of communication before the crisis hit. And a lot of times it's like we thugging it out. It's like, okay, I got to do this. I don't want to, but if I don't get up, they don't move, and so I got to. We gotta build in the peace times we do have, even though we only got so much energy. Like I said, we gotta check in on each other, make sure everybody cool. Like the dude with the 20 kids, like, hey, you taking care of your 20 kids? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Text message, a
like,
call,
for real,
something.
like,
Something.
and just a check-in because
I can dig that.
It get too overwhelming.
Yeah.
A lot of
One
times.
guy is over here. He lives in the building across the street. His son was knocking on everybody's door because they was trying to find his dad that lived in the building. He comes over and tells me the story about the woman wants to put him out, and he's to blame for his son knocking on the doors. You know what he said to me? I'm not to blame. He's grown. I said, that's your son,
Maybe
man.
that little monster.
Yeah, you got to hear the stories up in here. Now he's lit. His son's knocking on everybody's door. And then I go outside the door. I see the kid out there. And he comes running over here toward the barbershop. He said, Joe, don't close up, man. I said, I'm closed, man. He said, do you know how to roll a weed? I said, I can't roll much. What's so funny, it ain't really funny, the story. I'm just saying that this guy got all these kids, but he didn't want to accept it. I said, man, come on, that's your son. I give him a ride. He walks right back on over to the building, the son did, or the dad. I see it every day. I got a guy pulled his shirt up just like that. He said, ain't none of them come out of me. What am I going to do with that? I get him in his mouth.
And that's that each one teach one
Right.
energy that we need, where if you see it one straggling,
Attitude.
ain't got
Takes a
somebody,
village.
take them in.
Takes a
Yeah.
village.
Like I know if you got the capacity, do it. If you don't
There you go.
drain yourself. You know what I'm saying?
What I'll try to do is I notice a lot of young men and women will need guidance, and they'll, in their own way, ask for it, either directly or indirectly. And I usually try to impart some kind of wisdom, some kind of optimism, some kind of, perspective on their situation, because so many of them are just going through their life blindly without guidance. A lot of fathers that have a lot of children, they don't have that. Like I said, I grew up in a situation where I was fortunate. A lot of these kids don't have it, and I see so many just lost young people. So it's our responsibility to try to reach them. And I'm just thinking of what ways can we reach them, because I can scrutinize them all day. We can talk about what's wrong with our community, and it's in books, it's in movies.
You're right.
So what can we do?
Well, the
You know
first
what I
thing you
mean?
got to recognize is if you got a problem. And most people can't even recognize they got a problem.
We
That's
recognize
a
some
start.
people do.
And when you have a problem, you talk about it first.
Right.
Then you come up with the solutions by identifying the problem. Most people can't identify it. And I tell them right quick, don't walk up in here with that. See, oh man, come on, who you think? What old school? Listen, I'm not putting up with anybody to tell you who I am in Davenport. Because I don't take too much. Now, I'm going to talk about what I want in here. But you're not going to come in here and be disrespectful to me and nobody in here. We got ministers in here. I got two Catholic priests come in. One's named Nicholas. The other's named Apple. They in here I said, listen here. Can you just stop this for 20 minutes?
They never had that.
Thank you. And I just ask him. Then all of a sudden, a smart mouth will say something. I'm grown. I said, well, you better act like it. See, you got all kind of stuff I got to deal with. I'd like for somebody to come on down there and just stand up here and deal with it. Yeah.
It's about bringing people
Come on in
together,
here and deal with them.
bringing people
Faced
together
up.
and having important conversations. And we
Thank you.
appreciate you all for having
I'm
this
sorry, I
important
overdid.
conversation.
No,
You're
I
fine.
appreciate you.
You're fine. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. Really important conversation. And
All right.
really appreciate all of your time.